Welcome to Aurora Connects Season 2. This is episode 5 for Friday, September 11th, 2020. Cal State East Bay Hayward reunion. I am Associate Artistic Director, Monique Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Artistic Director, Josh Costello. Hi, Josh.
Hi, Dawn. How are you?
I'm very well. It's
Good,
been quite a week.
I was going to say, I'm glad you got the name right for this episode and for the title of the school.
Important, very important to me as a Cal State Hayward alum. Before I get started, I do just want to offer a moment of pause in acknowledgement that today is September 11th. That is a great day of remembrance for many of us here and abroad. So I just take a gentle pause. Great. Thank you all. I do have a special quote today, Josh, that I'm going to share. The actor uses his craft to create a metaphorical expression in affecting and revealing ways which will give us, the audience, a glimpse of his understanding of the mysteries of the human heart and existence. This is from Directing for Theater, A Personal Approach by the late Edgardo de la Cruz, who was, for most of us on today's call, a great teacher, mentor, spiritual guide. So in honor of today's episode, I chose a quote from his book, which Craig Marker is also quoted in. Questionable that the rest of us were not interviewed for this book, but Craig was. So yeah.
Well, that's a beautiful quote. Thank you.
Thank you. So Josh, you've been in rehearsals for the Flats this week, first week of rehearsals. How can people see the Flats? Hear the Flats?
It's so nice to be in rehearsal. We've got just a great group of actors, Anthony Fusco, Lauren English, and Kari Moy, great playwrights collaborating in a really unprecedented way. They're writing this story together, the three of them, and rewriting each other's work. And it's just been a great process. It is The Flats. It's an audio drama that Aurora Theater Company commissioned. It's about the themes that we are dealing with in the world right now. It is not specifically about COVID-19, but it is about three neighbors in Berkeley dealing with a crisis. And it's just so funny and so smart and so touching. It's going to be available in October on our website, auroratheater.org, and you will get free access to it if you are an Aurora Theater Company member. We are not doing subscriptions this year. We are doing memberships. You can go to auroratheater.org and learn all about our membership program. It'll get you access to the Flats and everything else that we're doing this year, such as center stage salons that I'm leading, where, for example, tomorrow, our members will get to ask questions and have a big conversation with the cast of Eureka Day, the play we did a couple years ago in 2018. Dawn is exploring the works of August Wilson in a monthly book club. And we have all kinds of stuff, new play development, another audio drama. We're partnering with other theaters and organizations to bring you more performances online. So please check out auroratheater.org and our membership program. And while you're there, if you are so moved, you can make a donation to help us get through this crazy year.
Great. And this week, like every other week, if you're watching along on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to write in the chat boxes. We love your comments. We like to ask questions of our guests. So if you have one, drop it there. And if you want to reach us about other things about the show, feel free to write us at connects@auroratheater.org. That's connects@auroratheater.org. Now today, Josh has the great privilege to be joined by me and some of my best friends in the whole wide world. All the folks on today's show, we met at Cal State Hayward, East Bay for Jasmine, the baby, many years ago, and all maintain careers in the arts and entertainment. So I'm just so thrilled to welcome our guests today. Courtney Flores, Craig Marker, Jeanette Marker, Marissa Keltie Muterspaugh, and Jasmine Milan Williams. Welcome, Cal State Hayward alum. Welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Hello. Hi.
And so many of these people have performed at Aurora and at other theaters, or designed costumes at Aurora and other theaters. it's just we realized what a cool thing it would be to bring you all together and talk about how you all got started together at Cal State Hayward, not Cal State East Bay, and wound up on Aurora's stage and at other theaters around the Bay Area. Such a lovely and talented, wonderful group of people, many of whom I have directed at Aurora and elsewhere. It's so lovely to see you all.
Good to see you guys. Thanks for having us.
Can I ask? I just want to hear a little bit about Cal State Hayward and the theater department there. Jeanette, will you tell us a little bit about that program?
I apologize, I'm on a bit of a delay, but yes, the program, it was a small program, and there was a lot of benefits to that in that they offered a lot of freedom to the students themselves. So we had a lot of student directed plays, student led costume design or scenic design. And it was a lot of kind of, them embracing our imagination and what we wanted to do instead of just kind of, some of the bigger theater programs, it's so almost very business-like. And with Cal State Hayward, it was very organic and a lot of opportunities were given to us.
That's right. That's great. And Craig Marker, our audience, I'm sure, remembers you from 5th of July and The Shape of Things. And what else? Are those the two main ones you've done at Aurora?
The Persians. I did the Persians and around the time you were getting married, apparently, 2004.
That's right. Yeah, we were just talking about anniversaries. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the connection I had right out of Cal State was doing The Shape of Things in 2002. It was the first big gig I had, and it was at the Aurora. And I remember we all went, well, I think, Dawn, you might not have been on the Edinburgh trip, but I know Marissa, Jeanette, and I were on the Edinburgh trip. We performed Taming of the Shrew at the James Cathedral, or St. John's, one of those, right at the base of Edinburgh Castle. And then we went to London, and I left early because I had to go straight into rehearsal. So I came off of the plane, went home for an hour to kind of get my head rested, and then was at my first rehearsal at a professional theater at the Aurora right after high school, or right after college, and then right into that world. And it was still just buzzing the whole time because.
Well, Tom Ross still loves to brag about having discovered you.
He does. Yeah.
Yeah.
I discovered Craig Marker. I like to brag about that because I met Craig right before his first term at Cal State Hayward. We were doing Prelude to a Kiss at what was then the Pleasanton Playhouse. They've changed their name now. And then he started at Cal State, and I just thought it was the coolest thing that I knew him ahead of everybody else.
She did.
We have a reminder in the chat that a request that we remind everyone that in case this has not been made clear, that Cal State Hayward and Cal State East Bay are the same school. That it was Cal State Hayward, and then at a certain point around 2004, I think, changed its name to Cal State East Bay, and perhaps a controversial decision. I take it from some of you.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, because it was fiscally motivated. So,
Yes.
it's all good. That comment comes from Eric Coopers, who is the leader of Dandelion Dance Theater. And he does a lot of dance for all bodies and abilities. And he's the current department chair of the department. And he was certainly a faculty member when it was still Cal State Hayward. So he wants us to know that the spirit of the department is the same. And our good friends Roberta and Patricia send their hellos in the chat too. Yeah. Courtney, what about you? What about the perspective of a designer and what the program offered you as a student?
I had a lot of very one-on-one time with the design instructor. At the time, it was Regina Kate, and she gave me a lot of one-on-one time that I would not have got at another school. I know that when I went to San Francisco State and for my MFA, I had a really great education there, but there's so many people in the department that you don't get that really good one-on-one time and helping you develop as a designer like you would at Cal State. So I really appreciated that. And I got to pick which shows I wanted to do all the time. I had, there were not a lot of design students, so I got first pick at everything that I wanted to do. So that was great. There was a lot of variety of different shows at the time. So.
And Courtney, remind us what shows you designed at Aurora.
I designed the Royale.
And also Detroit 67.
No,
you didn't do Detroit 67, just the Royale.
I worked backstage on, was it Detroit?
Oh, Detroit.
Detroit, that's right, yeah.
Yes.
We worked backstage on Detroit, yeah. For some reason, we had it written down that you had done Detroit 67. That, obviously, we've gotten that wrong, yeah.
No,
but you did the Royale.
Yes.
And then you designed a bunch of Impact shows back when Marissa and I were Impact company members.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's another part of the story is that many of you also worked at Impact Theater, which is a company that I co-founded back in 1996, and then Melissa Hillman became the artistic director in 2000 when I went off to grad school. And Melissa Hillman at the time was also working at Cal State Hayward. And I assume that's sort of what that connection is, that Melissa ended up roping her students all in to go and perform at Impact as well. Marissa, you were a big part of Impact for a long time, and you performed at Aurora recently in Everything Is Illuminated. And you and I worked together on Little Brother at Custom Made a while back and other things. And tell us about that connection with Melissa Hillman and Impact Theater.
Yeah, it was great because she came in, I think, to direct As You Like It at Cal State Hayward, and we all auditioned for her, and we just got sort of placed in our parts, which kind of just happened because we were such a small theater company. It was great because we would always get to work together and with each other just in these different roles. And then Melissa just encouraged us to, after we graduated, or even before, I think for some people, to audition at Impact. And she always talked about it being a place that you could go and work after you were out of school and you were starting to build your professional career. And that's exactly what it did. And I was so lucky that she took a chance on me, and Dawn was there with me. So we had a lot of fun, and Courtney came to design costumes, and yeah, we met you. And so it was a lot of good connections, and it was a lot of good times. And I think we made some really great theater, and I'm very sad that it's not around anymore, but I really appreciated the time that I got to spend there.
Cool. And Jasmine, so now, yeah.
You're the most recent alum of Cal State East Bay, and you were the most recent person to work on an Aurora production before we had to close our doors. So you probably had quite a different experience at Cal State than the rest of us, because I hope that we spend some time talking about Edgardo, but you didn't have the benefit of working with Edgardo. But you have worked with faculty that have close ties to Aurora as well. Richard Olmsted, Ulysses Alcala. So
Daryl V. Jones.
A little bit. Daryl V. Jones, yes. The diva himself. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the impact of the program on you and how it brought you to Aurora?
I think the beautiful thing is that the theme of like all of us talking about it is like, it was such a small program and we were all connected in the way that we had the support of our professors. You know, when going to East Bay, I was just like, I know I wanted to be an actor, and that was about it. But I came in with no experience from middle school or high school or any type of theater. And so they kind of just took you under their wing, and everybody was just like, okay, what do you want to do? You know, I had Jordan Battle, who was kind of like my mentor and who knew Dawn and who knew Courtney. And so everybody just kind of like mentors you and brings you in, and it's this small community, but it's so large. And I didn't know that when I first started. I was just like, okay, these are my classmates, XYZ, I know you, but then I didn't know how large I didn't know how many people I knew outside of that. And Courtney actually, I don't know if she remembers, but she was actually the first person to get me a professional job outside of college. She was working with Campo Santos Theater Company. And that was my very first professional gig. She was like, hey, you should audition for this. And I was like, I don't know. And Courtney's like, just do it. You know, it was a video audition and, you know, I got it. And after that, it was just working. So it was like that community that I had from Cal State East Bay kind of holds true for everybody. And the community that we had and that we were able to work so close with our professors and have that one-on-one time. And now I do costuming as well because of Cal State East Bay. And working with Ulysses, I knew nothing about sewing, didn't even know how to thread a sewing machine when I started. And he hired me. And now I've been working there for, almost 10 years. No, I graduated 6 years ago. Yeah, I've been working there for almost 10 years. I started working there my sophomore year of college. So it just kind of builds out that way. And I'm always so appreciative of it. And then that kind of funneled me into, you know, Dawn being the artistic associate director at Aurora. And now I was able to audition for Bull in China Shop. And it just all kind of like comes together.
Jasmine, you've also done a couple of readings for us.
We have some video from Bull in China Shop. There we go. And there's Jasmine. There she is. You were so wonderful in that role, Jasmine. People just raved and raved about your performance. It was really, really lovely.
Thank you.
So I want to ask for some details on the social life around Cal State Hayward, and I want to hear the embarrassing stories about each other. I know there's some story about Marissa and Dawn when you met for the first time. Can I? What happened? What went down?
Dawn
was there's a photo.
That's opening night of Bull in a China Shop.
Yeah. I think that's when I heard this story.
Yes, that shows the persistence of this friendship. And then Patricia was also in that picture. Marissa, you tell it so good because when you do like my voice, I just love it.
Well, I was new to the theater department, and as we've said, it was a small department, so everyone was very close, and it wasn't always the easiest to just sort of walk into and be a newbie. So I came in and I was nervous. I hadn't done a lot of acting before either, just a few things in high school. And we were doing a show called American Families in Transition, which was a sort of, a hodgepodge of scenes.
A pastiche
Of scenes and dances and monologues that we wrote. And I mean, it was amazing when you look back, but at the time it felt kind of cut and pasted together, but it was a lot of fun. And I was very nervous because I was very new. It was my first show there. And we were all in this dressing room, this big dressing room that we had. And Dawn would call me Mousy Brown because I was very sort of shy and I had long brown hair that she said I used to just kind of cover my face with and try to get away from interacting with many people. And so I just I thought I'm going to get in this dressing room and I'm just going to sit myself right in the corner and nobody's going to bother me. And I'm just going to do my makeup and my hair. And then I'm going to go on stage and I'm going to come out and I'm going to leave and it's going to be fine. You know, just try to breathe through it. And so I get there and I get in my corner and I set up my little caboodle with all my makeup. And Dawn flings open the door and goes, new booty. What do you think you're doing? You're sitting in my seat. Out. And of course I freaked out. I probably cried a little bit and I gathered all my stuff and I was like holding it. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then, like shuffling myself over to the middle of the dressing room, the exact place I didn't want to be. And then look, all these years, I would never have guessed that we would be such great friends all these years later.
We've been best friends ever since.
I think in the back of my head, I was like, I'm going to get you. We're going to be friends.
There we are with our impact shirts. That's us in the basement of Laval's in our impact shirts. Amanda showed a picture while you were talking, Marissa, that's actually of Jeanette and I. Jeanette is my big sis. We are in the same sorority, and she is my big sis in the sorority. That picture right there. That must be from, I think, like 2002 when Kappa had its 10 year, I think. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. Yeah.
So look, we were babies. So that picture is almost 20 years old.
Oh my God. That's my natural hair color.
And Jeanette, you and Craig, did you start dating in at Cal State? Because now you're married and you got kids, and yeah, it all began at. Did you meet at Cal State? What's that story?
Yeah. So the first time I saw Craig, I walked into the green room and he was wearing a Seattle Mariners hat. And funny story, before we're both originally from Washington State, didn't know that when I first saw him. And so I looked at him and I said, "Nice hat." And I walked out of the green room. Years later, he told me that he was like, "Oh my God, she's so hot." And then American Family, I lost my camera there. American Family in Transition, the show that Marissa was talking about, we were in an improv group with it as well. I did a monologue in that show too, but Craig and I were in an improv group, and the sparks flew.
Yeah.
And that's it. And now here we are. And you just had your anniversary.
Story. That's it. Yeah.
All right.
We just celebrated 15 years, but it's been 19 together because we got together in 2000.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Marissa and I flew up to Washington to be at that wedding.
Mm-hmm.
And Jeanette and I were in Marissa's wedding.
Yes.
A lot of life events that all started at Cal State.
Jeanette was one of the first people to hold my son. She came to the hospital and held my son.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't go on that 2002 Europe trip, but I did go on one in 2004. And Marissa and I did that. And then Courtney and I did one in 2008. I think Amanda has a picture of Courtney and I in the UK in front of a, yes, that's Courtney and I walking down the streets of the UK. We took Annabella Ema that year, 2008, to the Edinburgh Fringe. And in 2004, Marissa and I, and several others, of course, took 12th Night. And in 2004, we were rehearsing 12th Night in the summer, preparing to go to Edinburgh. And Edgardo was the director. He was directing 2 shows at once, and he passed before we got to opening. But we finished the show and we took it to Edinburgh anyway that year. And I would love, if we may, just spend a few moments talking about Edgardo, because I know for me, he is part of what made the experience at Cal State so special. And I will come to Craig first because Edgardo, you know, he was partial to the pretty guys. Like he showed y'all a whole lot of favor. But you're quoted in the book, so I just wonder, Craig, if you want to share a memory or a thought about Edgardo, or what you think made him such a unique feature.
First impressions or something. The famous theater room at Cal State Hayward is Theater 194. So that was where all the acting classes were. It's kind of there was also a dance mirror in there, so you could do rehearsal for dance or musical, whatever. But that was like the hub. First time I came across Edgardo was an acting class in that room, and I'm there at first day of class. And here comes in this guy who's just looked old and frail, and he just comes in and he just kind of shuffles, and you're like, man, this guy is my acting teacher? And he always just seemed like he was going to keel over because he had no energy. And then he would just get up on his feet to show you something and be like, you must swirl. And then he would get up and move and just be big and huge. You're like, whoa. But that first impression of like, oh my God, this guy. But one of the most profound things he did is he pushed me to be an actor that could think for myself, because I had done stuff in high school where when I first started, I was 16, and it was directors and then in community theater that everyone just tells you where to go and like how to say the words. So you were good at repeating what they wanted you to do. And in acting class with Edgardo, he would just say, no, you must show me, you do it. And you have to dream about what you're going to do. He didn't give notes. He figured the actor would process and would go. He'd kind of give you a floor plan of like, I think you move in a figure 8. And we're like, okay. And then there were times that he would sit you down opposite another actor and he would do a reading. So he would just have you talk with someone else and he would just observe you. And then he would pick something out. And I remember this one time I was working on a monologue from the play Lonely Planet by Stephen Dietz. And it's this long monologue about the AIDS crisis. And it takes its genesis from The Chairs, which is a show that the Aurora did, UNESCO's The Chairs, where all these chairs are being brought into this map shop. And each chair represented one of the friends of the people in the map shop. One of their friends had died of AIDS. And these chairs represented him. And there was this long monologue about the Mercator projection map and how it's distorted because that's how you could create a round world on a flat surface so that sailors could go off at sea. Yet our life is kind of like that map where sometimes the things on the periphery of our life are distorted and that you don't acknowledge that. And for him, it was that friends of his are dying and that's his problem of not seeing the world as it is. And I was struggling through this monologue and it was really long and elaborate and very moving in the end. And I couldn't get it. I just wasn't there yet. And he did one of those readings and he says, I see something green. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I don't know what that means. But then I was thinking about it and somehow something popped into my memory about someone that was important to me at that time. And I started crying. And did the monologue with a chair, and suddenly that chair meant something. It was a person, it was a thing, it was connected emotionally. And it was just that little, like, I see something green that for anyone else, they would have been like, this guy is wacko. I don't get it at all, what this guy's doing. And yet your brain just starts going places and you suddenly have a roadblock that's gone. And you're connecting to something differently. And now you're connecting in an emotional place and not just in your head. And it was the first big break. I went into the room and did it. And I remember people couldn't even look at me because it was like, that's intense. And if you know Theater 194, it's a small room. And he was this kind of guy that he was my guru. He was a mentor and someone I always looked to because he was that first person that really cracked through. And there was times that he would tell me, oh, you have so much talent, you don't know what to do with it. And would break through that kind of insecurity that I think a lot of us have and really go into a deeper place with what you were working on. So that's my long, elaborate Edgardo story. Connection.
Oh, he sounds amazing. I'm sorry I never got to meet him.
Yeah.
What's the story of his book? He wrote a book?
He did. It's a directing text, but it's more anecdotal than, put actors here or do this. And he rejected a lot of traditional convention. So, a lot of stuff, where you talk about action and objectives and tactics, and he would be like, that he talked a lot about the metaphor, the actor is the metaphor, which is in part why I chose the quote that I did. And he thought of himself as a mystic. Like Craig talked about this reading, and he did a reading on me like that too one day. And you do think like, oh, this is a little bizarre. But then he says like, I see a wood panel wall. And I start crying because that was in my childhood home. We had a wood panel wall. Now, I'm sure many people who lived in mid-century modern houses had wood panel wall. But like, it just, all of a sudden I was like, what? And I'm crying like Craig describes. So, so he was very in touch with like his cultural heritage as a Filipino. And I mean, Courtney, you were on, you designed that 12th night a little bit where he was like, it's all Filipino blankets. And like Marissa and I are like in costumes made from Filipino blankets in Edinburgh because that,
in the summer.
In the summer. And he, he's very famous for saying like, don't be boring. If you don't know what to do, then just twirl. So he rejected a lot of, our kind of ideas about what acting is or what directing is. And so he wrote this little manual, and it was published posthumously. So it came out after his death. And a few artists like Regina Kate, who was Courtney's mentor, she's interviewed in the book. Craig is interviewed in the book. A couple other actors and designers and collaborators that he had over the years are interviewed in the book. And it's a sweet little, little paperback book that we all rushed to get because it was released the year after he passed. So, yeah, I don't know if Courtney has a story to share as a designer working with Edgardo.
I do. I mean, I designed 2 of his shows. I know he was my director for my very first show that Dawn was in, Roar of the Grease Paint, Smell of the Crowd, which is very problematic now. And he directed the last show I worked on him with was Cabaret. And I've done Cabaret twice. And I remember working on Cabaret with him, and he wanted it to be very gritty and dirty. And he thought I was playing it safe with a lot of my designs. And so he kept pushing me. He's like, go dirtier, go dirtier. Like, they need to look like they're out of the gutter. So that always sticks in my mind. But I think one moment, he wouldn't do a reading with me. I asked him to, and he wouldn't do one with me for some reason. But he did say that he kept getting visions of a lot of white with me, and he pushed me to do my designs with more color. He's like, you need more color in your life, more color, more color, more color. And I think that always stuck with me, because I've noticed that almost every show that I've done, it has a lot of vibrant color in it, or I try to incorporate a lot of color in it for some reason. And a lot of, I think that's my main focus when I design, is just make it very aesthetically pleasing. And I think it circles back to him just as an inspiration. He's always back in my mind. You need more color, you need more color. So somehow he got to me.
And Jasmine, did you know him as well, or was that all before you got to that school?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's all before I got there, but the beautiful thing is he still exists. Like, you hear, I've heard about him. I've heard so many stories. There's actually a picture of him hanging in the costume shop, and so we look up and we see, and there's just all these things that you can feel his spirit still in the building. So though I've never met him, all these stories that I'm hearing that they're speaking about, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember people talking about him and hearing how strong he was. And Ulysses will share. Ulysses is a great storyteller if you ever want any stories. And you just hear these stories, like the story of Marissa and Dawn. I don't even know if you guys told me that story, but I heard that story before. So yeah, I was like, oh yeah, I've heard this story as soon as you started it. But I don't know that you all have told me. So it kind of like goes like that through East Bay. So everybody kind of like lives on, and they think you know everybody. Like, people are like, oh, you know Craig Marker. And I was like, never met him. And they're like, no, you know him. So it kind of like everybody's still there in a way. So it's very beautiful. Like, when I get to meet people, I'm like, oh, I've heard so much about you. So in a way that I feel like I've had the pleasure of meeting him.
So what else makes it such a special place? I know, who do we have here? What's this photo?
Courtney and Jasmine in the costume shop.
All right.
Yeah, I worked in the costume shop for a few years when Jasmine was becoming a student. So that's how I know Jasmine.
And I still work there.
Yeah.
There you go.
Glamour shots.
I'm wondering what else is it about this school that makes it so special? I've heard that it's part of it is that it's very small and everybody gets a lot of individual attention and a lot of opportunities to work. But there seems to be something more than that about the general attitude or the philosophy behind it. Does anybody want to address that? What makes, and there, look at that. Marissa, you have any thoughts about that? Like, what is it about this school that like, and also like is every year, is it this talented group of people come through, or was it like something special happened with you guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can only speak to our time there, but I also, I mean, seeing shows that Jasmine was in, that Dawn directed, long after I was there, you could tell that there was that same energy between that group of people. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's some sort of pixie dust, or if we all just happen to be in good clumps. I remember Edgardo telling us seriously that we were a good group, we were hard workers, we were smart, and he wanted us to stay that way. And so he wanted us to, and I think what Craig said, I think one of the greatest gifts he gave us was to be independent thinkers, to be able to create on our own. So, all of it, like I've been directed by Jeanette and Dawn and Craig, and costumed by Courtney, and I've stage managed for Dawn and worked the light board, and we had to do everything. Mm-hmm. And they wanted us to be really well-rounded. And that, I think, made us appreciate everyone that we work with all the time. And it made us appreciate each other more for all of our skills, not just necessarily being great actors. And I'm really grateful to be able to go into a room and maybe not always make the best choices, but feel confident enough to make choices. And when somebody says, I don't like that, feel confident enough to make another choice and just do it, instead of sort of waiting for someone to tell me what to do. Now, maybe, I don't know, maybe directors don't like that, but I like that. That's the way I like to work. And I feel like I've gotten that from Cal State. And then I think there was just a magic, I used to call us Moliere's traveling troupe, because we would really just be put in different parts and then just put up a show. And, when Edgardo passed, when we were doing 12th Night, it was horrifically sad. And I remember we all came together at someone's house and had a good talk about it. But I don't remember any of us being worried about the show or finishing directing the show, because he gave us that gift of confidence and able to work with each other and not against each other. He really talked about if we all make each other look good on stage, it can only be successful. So if you're out for yourself to make yourself look good, the show's going to fall apart. But if you're all there and okay, Jeanette is person A and I as person B am giving her that attention and focus on her, and then it shifts in the scene or whatever it does, then it's going to be successful. So, and then I think, we all just got along too. We had parties, we had good times, we had TGI Friday nights, we had Denny's.
That's us at Jeanette's job. Jeanette works for Pixar, and she invited us. This picture that Amanda has up, she invited, some of us have been several times, but that's us at Pixar. I'm in the picture, Marissa, Courtney's in the picture.
A minute ago, we saw a picture of Little Brother, which I directed with Marissa at Custom Made. And you said you're not sure if directors like it. I can only speak for myself, but I love actors who make their own choices, and I feel like it makes my job so much more interesting when actors are coming in with ideas, with strong ideas, and even if they're not exactly what I would have chosen, half the time they're significantly better than what I would have chosen, and then it forces us all to keep moving forward. I think it's wonderful, and directing you was such a joy in that show, Marissa. You were so wonderful.
Thank you. That's one of my favorite shows.
Now, Jeanette, you worked with Josh at Impact on Toil and Trouble. Mm-hmm. And when you didn't send in a headshot, we almost used a press shot of you from Toil and Trouble as your headshot.
Yeah.
You see it there on the screen.
That's me normally. That's my true self right there.
What was it?
Yeah,
like
that was a little bit of typecasting.
You photoshopped in a pumpkin. I think that was my head.
I remember being everywhere. I remember that one.
It's so good.
That was written by Lauren Gunderson, who's writing our audio drama. The eggs, yeah. What happened? We had like eggs on the ceiling, yeah. That was a very messy production. I do tend to like messy production.
It is incredibly hard to crush an egg in your hand.
Huh.
As we learned.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
Jeanette, what was it like for you working with Josh?
Oh, Josh was fantastic. He was fun. He was just a fun director. I think that's what, I mean, the play was really silly too. That, you know, it was just such a fun play anyways to work on. And I got to play such a crazy character that was so much fun. And it was like my goal every day to get that big Josh laugh. I felt very successful when I would get that big Josh laugh. I just remember it being a lot of fun, and I was always on my toes, like just bouncing. I was so excited to be doing the work in that show. And I think Josh really set that up to just have a, you know, it is a job, it's theater, but hey, we're doing theater and we're doing an amazing show. Let's have a great time. And that's kind of how I felt Josh approached it.
I've since become much more jaded. Now.
I got the good Josh.
It was such a fun show and such a lovely, silly script. It was a send up of the Scottish play set in like the Bay Area with, tech bros kind of thing. It was very silly.
And like Giants, go Giants, and alpacas.
Yeah. There was a lot of baseball and a lot of alpacas in that show.
Yeah.
How much have you all? You. It sounds like you guys have all continued to. I mean, obviously, stay in touch, but also work together afterwards. And what, like, how does the school encourage? Like, does the school support you as you move into the professional world? Like, what are the ways in which the school is sort of setting you up for success and putting you out there, or is it sort of like they just give you everything you need and then send you off? How does it work?
I think that's maybe where it was a little bit harder, is there wasn't as much, this is what you do now when you go out in the world. So I was really grateful for Craig, because he would say, oh, Marissa, this is how you need to format your resume. And he would help me along, because he had sort of jumped into the professional world, and Dawn as well, kind of helping me through that. So it was almost as if they set us up to, and we connected and made these friendships, and then those helped us when we got out into the professional world. I don't know. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I think probably for Courtney and I as director and designer, it was a little bit different too, because I was rehired a lot in the department to come back and guest direct and teach. And Courtney has had a similar experience. So I felt like set up a little bit differently, because I wasn't acting anymore. Even though when I started in the department, I very much was an actor. I was an actor in American Families in Transition. I was acting in that with my friends. So for me, there were continued opportunities to kind of develop craft, both before and after I went away to grad school.
Yeah.
And Jasmine, I see you nodding a lot about this whole part of the conversation. How's your experience as you're moving into being a professional actor here?
I feel like Marissa touched on it, and it was the beautiful thing, and I think the magic of East Bay is, like, not only are we being mentored by our professors, but we're being mentored by our classmates. And I was actually talking to Ulysses about this funnily earlier this week, because we were like, oh yeah, I had all of these, because the school is a commuter school and a lot of transfers come. A lot of I came in as a freshman, but a lot of people are transferring. So a lot of my classmates were older than me. So I'm coming in as like young, 17 something. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. And they're like, hey, I've been there, done that. Let me take you under my wing. And so it was beautiful to watch them and see how they've blossomed, and that they can just like pour into us. And then we can see what is possible. So like now that I work at the school and students have, the youth that are coming in now, I'm like, oh, this is what I do. You all should audition for this. I can tell them about, castings that are happening. Oh, you should go. Yeah, I've worked with that theater company. They're great. I've had this, and this experience with them. So I think it's the community more so that of my classmates that set me up, versus like my professors did, and they gave us the plan of it, but I think sparking is following in footsteps of my other classmates, and like Courtney and Dawn, and just knowing that they're there to support us and saying like, hey, you've been through this, or you've worked with them before. Are they a good company? And they're like, yeah, they're a great company. I've directed for them. I've costumed for them. That's kind of how I like found my route.
And Marissa also started at Cal State as a freshman, but the rest of us were all transfer students as well. And, we curated this specific group of alumni because of the Impact Aurora connection, but the alumni network from Cal State is really huge. And I know that I got some of my early professional starts also through that. Like Jeanette was working at TheaterWorks. And so, you know, she introduced me to like Leslie, and that's how I ended up being able to assistant direct at TheaterWorks. And there were other Cal State alums at TheaterWorks at that time too. Steve Manshart, Beverly was there. So, you know, I mean, like James Monroe Iglehart, who was on Broadway up until the minute it closed, is a Cal State Hayward alum. So the alumni I have found in my experience, like Melissa Hillman, like really reach back, because Melissa's also a Cal State alum. She wasn't just faculty there. So the alumni have always done a great job of, if you reach out, needing advice, needing a hand, that has always been great. From one of my dear friends, Marianne Mackey, is in her 70s, and she was like the first freshman class to ever graduate Cal State East Bay. And, you know, she's gone with us on some of these Europe trips and continue. She's an Aurora member, you know, because I work there, you know, so it really is a huge network of people that really care, because at each pod, like each class was so small, but when you put them all together, there's people all across the Bay Area and the country who have come from Cal State Hayward / East Bay, who are really reaching back and doing this great work of staying connected, I think.
So cool.
Let me throw one other thing in there too, because there's been an old guard and new guard in terms of the teachers and other artists. But I know one of the other teachers we had was Rick Prindle, who was a professional actor on the scene at the time. And then he would get people in the industry in the area to come and mentor us or be in on a class. So that's when I first came across Margot Hall and coming across the Carlins. Nancy came to the theater. Casting directors, Amy Patoskin, who was, I guess she's just been furloughed or released at Berkeley Rep, but she was a mainstay casting director there for years. She came, so he brought in people. We had Rhoda Kaufman, who was, she was in charge of the play reading, like reading plays from any genre, any era, and the intellectual side. And it says something when you're doing the DOTA classes, the dramatic, what is the, I forget, dramatic, what the acronym was for, but the DOTA classes.
Development of Dramatic Art.
There you go.
Development of Dramatic Art, which they no longer call them that anymore.
But still, it was the DOTA classes with Rhoda, DOTA with Rhoda. And you'd have them at like 8:10 in the morning, 2 hours. And it was just like, oh God, but they were the best. And I remember she shamed me into putting into my bios that I'm a Cal State grad. She's like, you need to put that in there, because people will read that and they will want to know about that and go to Cal State, and you represent this, so you need to do that. I'm like, oh my God, Rhoda, I'm so sorry. You're right, I'll do that. And ever since I've put it in. But we had that amazing resource of people that were actually in the industry that were teaching us as well in that small community. And I mean, when we say small too, I mean, we had a 500-seat proscenium theater. We had a 300-seat, 150-seat black box space. We had multiple locations there, but it was all within this big concrete structure building. The green room space, the theaters, the classrooms were all there. Occasionally you'd have to go across to a classroom somewhere else, or where the professors had their offices, but it was that there was this hub. And no matter what, you were always with your people, because you were in the same building all the time. And when you weren't in the building, we created games, wall ball and other weird things out front, and like ways to bond when you're like, I'm done with doing this. But there's that to share.
I believe there was a rubber ducky game also, Craig. Did you want to talk about the rubber ducky game?
Well, there's nothing like doing a William Congreve scene where they're supposed to be playing cards, but instead you're throwing a rubber ducky at each other's genitals. The game of like, can you hit? Oh, you won again. Oh, and hey man, we were in our early 20s. There's a lot of things going on, college, experimenting with genres and choices, like we were talking about choices. That was a very bold choice.
Also had an amazing summer rep. That's when Jeanette and I first met, was during summer rep. So for many years we used to do a 3-show season every summer. And I mean, it was summer stock. And we'd be in the green, like you'd nap in the green room between rehearsals and performance, and we'd have cookouts on the loading dock. I mean, like we really were like a family. It just was like I feel like I grew up at Cal State. I'm always telling people that, like, I grew up there. It's like my coming of age story. It's Cal State.
Mentioned, that are Cal State faculty who also have worked at Aurora. There's Richard Olmsted, who's designed many sets for Aurora over many years, since going back to the City Club. There's Daryl V. Jones, who we mentioned, who has directed some shows at Aurora, Detroit 67 and the Royale. And there's Ulysses, has come up a few times, and he's a costume designer. He did the costumes for Bull in a China Shop. And then Melissa Hillman, who we've mentioned, will be a guest on Aurora Connects in a few weeks. So we look forward to talking with Melissa as well. Am I missing anybody else that we should be naming here, Dawn?
No, but Ulysses also designed Actually, just adding.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so lots of crossover with this program and this theater.
Yeah. And we hope to continue so.
We're coming up on the end of the time. Any last stories you want to share about the crazy parties you all had in college, or anything else? Any last little nuggets that we've missed that you've been saving up?
Plead the fifth. What's happening, Marissa?
No.
No, I met my lovely wife at the theater, and then went back to that show, American Family in Transition. It was what did you say? A pastiche. Pastiche. And it was it was an experiment. I think that's one of the things too, that the professors we had were willing to either experiment themselves or let us experiment with a project. And this was, we're going to talk about American Family through dance, through monologue, through improv, through scenes from American plays. But of course, all the American plays were like Eugene O'Neill and Arthur Miller, Leo Rodriguez, like just slamming my face closed as Willie as Biff and Hap and Willie. But in that, there was so much that came out of it. The relationships we built from that one show, I feel, were long lasting. Seeing my now wife doing her monologue about having to leave her sisters up in Washington to come to school in California, and it was like, wow, she's amazing. And then getting up there being like, I'm going to do Death of a Salesman scene, and it's all for a one-person audience. That kind of stuff.
I think that's key, that the department still does that. They like to push boundaries. They like to try new things. They're still doing that now. And I think that's important too. And I think that's why people keep coming there and people keep succeeding, is just because, we're pushing boundaries, trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone. So.
Hey, I left with 0 student loans. Just throwing that out there too. I don't know if it's still the same. I know tuition's hiked in the past 20 years, but I had 0 student loans.
Sad that.
End the show by giving a shout out to another organization that's doing important work in our community. And Marissa, you recommended the Alameda Food Bank. Do you want to tell us anything about why you chose the Alameda Food Bank?
The first time I worked with them was actually with a group of Actors Equity artists who were doing some philanthropic work, and we went there and we helped sort the food and get it ready. And I was working at a company, and they needed some sort of philanthropic outlet, and I suggested them. And so I've been sort of on their email list, and I really wanted to get my son and I involved, and that would kind of unfortunately got taken over by the situation we find ourselves in now, but I look forward to doing that afterward. But they just do great work. And right now they're doing food donations to folks if you want to drive up and grab a food donation, and their website has the hours that you can do that. And because I know a lot of folks are struggling with money and food and everything like that. So if you need some extra resources, or if you have some resources that you can give them, I'm sure that they would appreciate that.
Thank you, Marissa. And I should say that they are a nonprofit organization that helps Alameda residents in need by providing nourishing food in a compassionate and respectful manner with the support of dedicated volunteers like Marissa Keltie and local partners. And they are at alamedafoodbank.org. So please check them out.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much for joining us. This was such a lovely conversation. It's so inspiring to hear your stories, and I'm so happy to see you all. And just to see the joy that you take in each other. It's really lovely, really lovely.
What a gift to have your boss say, call up your best friends and have them on our show. Like, such a gift. Especially when I can't see you guys in person.
No.
All right. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Please, and thank you, everybody, for watching our episode today.
Remember, you can always send us a comment, ask questions by reaching out to connects@auroratheater.org, connects@auroratheater.org. We'd love to hear from you. We are available in podcast format as well, Stitch, Spotify, Apple Music, if you prefer to listen on the go.
Next week, we will have Brad Erickson, the director of Theater Bay Area, which is the service organization for theaters in the Bay Area. It's a really important organization, and Brad has been doing great work, and really excited to have him as our guest next week and talk about Theater Bay Area.
Remember to get your Aurora Theater membership. The Flats drops October 23rd. You do not want to miss it. auroratheater.org/memberships. You can get all the details there. So thanks, friends, for tuning in another Friday, and thanks for staying connected.